Starting off this countdown, we have Enchanted Island. Located in Alaska, sections of this island are blurred out on Google Maps, and no one really knows why this is. But it may have to do with the nuclear testing that once took place there. From the 1950s to the 1970s, Enchanted Island was the site of US underground nuclear testing. Nowadays, they are running tests to see if the island has any radioactive leakage there. If there isn't, then in 2025 it could become a wildlife reserve. But again, why is half of the island blurred out? Maybe that's the section where the nuclear testing took place. But why is it still blurred? A lot of people think that the military is doing some suspicious illegal activities there, and that's why. But what do you think? Let me know in the comments below. In our ninth spot, we have 2207 Seymour Avenue. And if you guys are liking this video so far, then make sure to give it a big thumbs up. 2207 Seymour Avenue, located in Cleveland, Ohio, is a home where a horrific crime took place. From 2002 to 2004, Ariel Castro kidnapped 3 young women: Michelle Knight, Amanda Berry, and Georgina De Jesus. He kept them captive in his home until 2013, when Amanda Berry escaped with her daughter and contacted the police. The police came to his house and rescued the other women. Castro was arrested within hours. He was sentenced to life plus 1,000 years in prison without parole. Due to the disturbing crimes that took place at his home, Google Maps decided to blur his house. In fact, the house has been named the House of Horrors. But a couple years back, his house was demolished to help the victims move on from their traumatizing past. Coming in at number 8, we have the French nuclear facility. The Arriva-La Hague nuclear fuel reprocessing facility in France is another place that is blurred out on Google Maps. This facility opened in 1976 and is responsible for treating nuclear fuel from several countries. Here's the thing though, this facility hasn't always been blurred out. By using the Google Earth History tab, you can see old Google Earth images of this facility. So now, why all of a sudden is it blurred out? What is going on there? Well, it may have something to do with the controversy it has received and the backlash it received from Greenpeace. Since 1997, Greenpeace has been trying to shut it down, saying that they dump 1 million liters of liquid radioactive waste per day in the ocean. That is severely messed up if that's true. Maybe that's why it's blurred out, so that people don't see what they're really up to with their nuclear waste. Moving on to number 7, we have the French prison. There are a number of prisons that are blurred out on Google Earth, including the Beaumet prison in Marseille. Now, why do they blur out images of prisons? Well, a couple of reasons. One, for privacy. But the main reason is so that the criminals don't know the layout of the prison. Basically, this prison wasn't always blurred. Following a successful jailbreak, France's Minister of Justice was like, why are there aerial images of this prison available online? And then that led to the prison getting blurred. But of course, you can still find older images of the prison on Google Maps that show what it looks like and its layout. In our 6th spot, we have the Antarctic Ice Shield. This is another pretty strange place to get blurred. But basically, halfway between Australia and Madagascar, there is a 22-kilometer long blur in the middle of the Antarctic Ice Shield. I mean, this place is one of the most isolated places on Earth. There's nothing but ice and penguins there. So why is it being blurred out? We don't know for sure, but people think that there is something hidden there that we're not allowed to see. Although it's thought to be owned by Australia, theory goes that Russia or the US have built a research facility there. The only way we'll know for sure is by visiting the place itself. So who's coming with me for this field trip? It'll be a lot of fun. Come on, just pack a snowsuit and lots of hot packs. We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with Moroa Island. Located in French Polynesia, this island was first used for nuclear testing in 1966 by France. These tests apparently took place until 1996. That's when the French president shut down the facility. Why? Well, Greenpeace found out that these tests were polluting the water as far as Peru and New Zealand. In fact, many locals in Tahiti have claimed they have been affected by the radiation from the tests. Nowadays, the island is off limit to visitors and is guarded by French forces, which is probably why half of the island is blurred on Google Maps. Or maybe it's because they're still doing these nuclear tests. We may never know. Moving on at number 4, we have Elmira Correctional Facility. Elmira Correctional Facility, also known as The Hills, is a maximum security state prison in New York. This is another facility blurred on Google Earth. Why? Well, a number of reasons. 1, they have fears of an aerial attack. Number 2, they have fears that someone will use this information to plan an escape. And number 3, the prison is highly secure. Why would they want images of the building online for everyone to see? But it turns out that this location got blurred after a number of riots and mass escapes. Moving on at number 3, we have North Korea. Okay, is it even shocking that North Korea has sections of its country blurred? I mean, they are so secretive, so this isn't a surprise at all. Now, the area that is blurred is along the country's western shore. So people have thought that they are hiding something there, maybe a secret military project. Who knows? I mean, hey, the country is hiding so many things. Like I said, this one doesn't really come as a surprise. In our second spot, we have Paseo de los Naranjos. Located in Spain, this place translates to orange tree yard, and it is completely censored on Google Maps. No matter how close you try to zoom in on the map or the area close by, you won't be able to see anything. Why? Well, there's a lot of government buildings located there, so it's blurred out for security and privacy reasons, which makes sense. Many government or military buildings are blurred out on Google Maps for similar reasons. And in our number 1 spot today, we have Jeanette Island. Located in Russia, this island is said to contain a secret Russian military base. If you type this island into Google, you'll find a whole lot of nothing. Legit, it just looks like a bunch of water. It's not even registered on Google Maps as an island. When you type in its coordinates, you will see a message that says this island is unavailable. Now, before it was removed from the maps altogether, it wasn't even blurred out. It was actually blacked out. Like there was a full-on black mass just covering it. But when you zoomed in, you could see this icy mass, and that's all. According to Reddit user Exoplanetary Science, he said, and I quote, "Google rarely blacks out without reason. A search through Google Earth shows that this has been permanently blurred out, even in images dating back to the 1980s. I'm going to guess there's a concealed Russian military base located there, and possibly quite a substantial one." So, there you have it, folks. Secret Russian military base. Starting off this countdown, we have the Coca-Cola Vault. Located in Atlanta in a secure locked vault is the Coca-Cola secret recipe. Ravioli, ravioli, give me that formioli, am I right? The recipe for Coca-Cola is said to be one of the best kept secrets in the world. Apparently, only 2 employees know the formula and have access to it. In 1920, the recipe was under lock and key at a New York bank. Then in 1925, it was transferred to the trust company in Atlanta. Then in 2011, they decided to move it into a vault into a museum in Atlanta. The museum garners hundreds of thousands of tourists each year, but they're never allowed through the doors of the vault. Only a select few exclusive Coca-Cola workers are allowed in this vault. I feel like we should make a National Treasure 3 in which Nicolas Cage tries to steal the Coca-Cola recipe from the vault. Who's with me? It'd be fun. In our 9th spot today, we have the Whites Club. Now this is an exclusive club in the UK. It was founded in 1693, and only a select few are allowed entry into this club. You know who can't go in? Women. This club is completely off limits to women. The only woman who was ever allowed to go in there was Queen Elizabeth. Now, members of this club include political leaders, senior bankers, and even heirs to the British throne. Now, what goes on in there? No one knows for sure. Only a couple of people have managed to sneak inside. In our 8th spot today, we have Heart Reef. Now, this is a very popular tourist attraction part of Australia's Great Barrier Reef. People loved it because it was a reef shaped as a heart. But unfortunately, people have been banned from going there, including divers and snorkelers. And that's because the reef is at risk. So in order to protect its ecosystem, they don't allow anyone to go there. But if you do want to see the reef and get a good photo of it, they offer helicopter rides above. In our 7th spot, we have the Temple Mount. This temple dates back to the 1st century BC and contains the Dome of the Rock. This is a gold-topped Islamic shrine very important in Jerusalem. Now, there are already strict rules for those who want to enter the Temple Mount, but there's even stricter rules for those that want to go to the Dome of Rock. Entry is only allowed for people who practice Islam. Non-Muslims are not allowed in it at all. One of the reasons as to why it's so sacred is because the Prophet Muhammad is traditionally believed to have ascended into heavens from this site. So out of respect, no tourists are allowed in unless you are Muslim. In our 6th spot, we have Club 33. Now this is a secret club in none other than Disney. Yes, Disney has a number of secrets, this being one of them. Club 33 is an exclusive place that Walt Disney himself created, and only the elite have access to it. How do you gain access to it? Well, you can't. It's invitation only. But even an invite doesn't guarantee you entry. And let's say you do become one of the elite who have access to the club. Well, you need to spend about $100,000 to solidify your membership, and you have to pay $30,000 a year to stay a member. So in the end, is it even worth it? I mean, if you got money to spend, then maybe. I just want to know what goes on in that club. Like, do they just get drunk and watch Disney movies all night or what? We're now at our 5th and halfway mark with Chichen Itza. Now this is actually one of the most popular tourist attractions in the world. Millions of tourists would come here every year to look at the Mayan pyramid. But since 2006, there is a rule that no one is allowed to go on the pyramid. Basically, in 2006, a woman was climbing down the pyramid when she fell and sadly lost her life. She had slipped on one of the steps that had been smoothed over from thousands of visitors' footsteps. So in order to prevent this from ever happening again, it became closed to the public. In our 4th spot, we have Poveglia, Italy. During the 18th century, this island was used as a dumping ground for victims of the plague. According to some reports, 50% of the island soil consists of human remains. Later, Napoleon used the island to store weapons, and then in the 1920s it became a mental hospital. But the hospital workers were corrupt and often conducted experiments on the patients. In fact, one story says that a doctor went mad and started butchering his patients. His life came to an end when he fell from the hospital's bell tower. Now it's believed that the island is haunted from all the people that died there. Now, if all that history didn't scare you away, then I don't know what will. But even if you are intrigued and want to go investigate this island, you can't. The island is abandoned and tourists aren't allowed to visit. In our 3rd spot today, we have the old city of Sanaya. This city is filled with beautiful ancient tower houses, mosques, and other architectural gems. But it's most known for its tower houses, which are built from stone and fired brick. They can reach up to 8 stories in height. According from local legend, it was founded by Shem, one of the 3 sons of Noah. But the city is off limits to most tourists, and that's because they face persistent terrorist attacks, civil unrest, disease, and famine. There's also a risk of kidnapping, armed conflict, and landmines that you gotta worry about. So they prevent tourists from visiting for their own safety. In our 2nd spot, we have the New York Stock Exchange. In movies, the floor at the New York Stock Exchange is filled with hustle and bustle. You got people running all over the place, pages flying, lines constantly ringing, and Leonardo DiCaprio. Now, in real life, who knows what it's like? And that's because no one is allowed in there. Now, for a while, the NYSE did allow public tours, but after 9/11, they seized all tours and haven't let any tourists or outsiders in since. You're only allowed in if you've been specially invited. And in our number 1 spot today, we have Jiangsu National Security Education Museum. Now, this is a spy museum that was opened in 2009, China. It's filled with cool spy devices like spy cameras, eavesdropping equipment, tiny pistols disguised as fountain pens, even guns disguised as lipstick, and more. It also contains a number of highly classified documents. As a result, foreigners and tourists are not allowed. A spokeswoman for the museum said, and I quote, "We don't want such sensitive spy information to be exposed to foreigners, so they're not allowed to enter." Also, for those that do enter the museum, they aren't even allowed to take photos. This shows just how secretive and intense this museum really is. They just want to protect its history and spy secrets.
Starting us off at number 10, we have Jeannette Island. Located somewhere in the East Siberian Sea, this mysterious tiny island measures just 1.2 miles in length, and according to the powers that be, we are not supposed to know about it. From what we can tell, it's mainly covered in ice, so it's highly unlikely that there's any kind of civilization there. So the $1 million question is, what are they hiding? Apparently there have been some issues about who the island legally belongs to, with disputes between the US and Russia over the years, which has led some to believe it could be some kind of top secret military base or something. But whatever it is, it's blurred out on Google Maps and no one is allowed to visit. Next up at number 9, Patio de los Naranjos. Located in the gorgeous coastal city of Almeria in Spain, something about this place doesn't add up, and it's being kept a secret from the world. What's strange about this location in particular is that Patio de los Naranjos translates to Orange Tree Courtyard, which, if that were true, why on earth would we not be able to visit it? So it begs the question, what lies beneath that blurred out square on Google Maps, and what could be so dangerous about it that we aren't even allowed to see it virtually, let alone in person? Maybe it's a government building, or maybe it's a top secret military base, but whatever it is, they are not keen on anyone knowing what is going on, which to me seems very suspicious. Coming in at number 8, Amchitka Island. Once home to the Aleut people for over 2,500 years, Amchitka Island has had no permanent population since 1832. In 1836, when the United States purchased Alaska, they gained control of the territory, and it's likely this purchase had something to do with the declining population. But that's not all. During the 50s, 60s, and 70s, it became the largest underground nuclear testing site and was controversial even then, in fear that the test could cause severe environmental impacts and desolate the land. Currently it's under observation for radioactive leakage, and so it has been blurred out from Google Maps to keep visitors far, far away. Coming in at number 7, a Russian warehouse. Deep in an unnamed forest in Russia lies a strange building that no one is permitted to see. Already it sounds like the start of a spy movie. From ground level, it's likely all you would see is the double high fencing that surrounds the mysterious warehouses, but from a bird's eye view, you can see it all. But just because we can see it on Google does not mean they want us to know what's in there. I mean, generally when you put a giant strange building in the middle of nowhere surrounded by a huge fence, you are trying to keep something a secret. Although no one knows exactly what this strange mile-long warehouse is, many suspect it to be some kind of military storage facility, possibly even storing explosives. So if that is the case, it would make sense why they put it in the middle of nowhere and why no one is permitted to visit. Coming in at number 6, underwater pyramids. Located in the Bahamas, this photo found in Google Maps has left many thinking that they discovered underwater pyramids. Now, I know, this is a full conspiracy theory, but I mean I had to add it because it's too entertaining to leave out. Some believe it's proof of Atlantis or aliens themselves, while others have deduced it could have been built by an ancient civilization. The mysterious structure is estimated to measure between 3.5 to 11 miles across based on the photos, although no one knows for sure as you can't get to the structure to see for yourself. If it is in fact what many believe it to be, it would be bigger than any pyramid ever built. But seeing as though no one can visit them, it might be a long while before we know if these pyramids prove any kind of extraterrestrial involvement on Earth. Coming in at number 5, Sandy Island. Also known as the Phantom Island, this peculiar location was first discovered by the famous British explorer Captain James Cook in 1774. Now, what's crazy about Sandy Island is that it was documented on maps, globes, and even nautical charts for 238 years. But now if you go to Google Maps, you will see no such island. The reason being that in 1979, it was quite literally undiscovered, as no landmass existed there, but even so it remained on Google Maps until 2012. This seemingly conflicting information made many wonder if there was something that we weren't being told about this strange island, or non-island, and some conspiracy theorists even believe that it is truly there and that we are being lied to. I mean, it isn't every day that something is undiscovered, so it does make sense to wonder if there is something going on behind the scenes, but I guess we will never know for sure. Coming in at number 4, Oregano La Hague. Fully pixelated out on Google Maps, this recycling plant has a very strict no visitors policy, which is likely why you are not able to see the entirety of the complex. You might be asking, a recycling plant, what's so bad about that I'm not allowed to visit? Well, it's not just any old recycling place for beer bottles and juice boxes. The Oregano La Hague is a recycling plant for nuclear fuel. So as you can imagine, it is an extremely hazardous place littered with nuclear waste, and so for those very obvious reasons, Google Maps keeps it blurred out to keep visitors from trying to figure out how to get there. Coming in at number 3, the GROM headquarters. If you have ever Googled Warsaw in Poland, you may or may not have come across a strange group of buildings that look like mysterious blobs compared to the rest of the city around it. Well, as it turns out, this is no accident. Those buildings are GROM, or GROM, I'm not totally sure, headquarters, which is essentially Poland's Special Forces building. All I can find out about this top secret group is that they rescued CIA agents from a mission gone wrong in Desert Storm back in 1991. And whatever else they're up to, they do not want you to know about. Which, I mean, I guess is kind of the point. So as much as I am sure many of us would like to know what goes on in this super secret Polish spy headquarters, I'm afraid that information is highly classified, and their exact location will continue to remain a secret from the public. Coming in at number 2, a massive pentagram. Somewhere in the outskirts of Kazakhstan lies a dark symbol that has literally been carved into the earth. Although you might not be able to fully see the entire symbol at ground level, from above, the stark pentagram is clear as day. Conspiracy theorists have linked the cliffside pentagram to the Freemasons and Wiccans, stating that it is a site of animal sacrifice and satanic ritual, although this has never actually been confirmed. Still, the exact location of the pentagram is difficult to track down, and though not necessarily illegal to visit, I would definitely stay far away from anywhere rumored to be the site of a satanic ritual. And last up, in our number 1 spot today, we have a UFO crash site. Whether you tend to believe in aliens or not, this one is pretty freaking wild. From what you can see on Google Maps, it appears that a flying saucer crashed in the plains of South Africa. Around the UFO is a well-worn dirt path, which has led some to believe that aliens themselves could be hiding out there, as no one has visited the site since it was discovered, and how else would a dirt path have been formed if not by someone or something walking around the area? The top appears to be metallic from the area shot, which is unlike any rooftops on other buildings in the area, and many conspiracy theorists are convinced it's a UFO. No one has seen the site to know for sure, or at least no one has returned to tell the tale. Starting us off at number 10, Sandy Island. Also known as the Phantom Island, this peculiar location was first discovered by the famous British explorer Captain James Cook in 1774. Now, what's crazy about Sandy Island is that it was documented on maps, globes, and even nautical charts for 238 years. But now if you go to Google Maps, you will see no such island. The reason being is that in 1979, it was quite literally undiscovered, as apparently no landmass existed there. But even so, it remained on Google Maps until 2012. This seemingly conflicting information made many wonder if there is something that we aren't being told about the strange island, or non-island, I suppose. And so naturally, a conspiracy theory began, stating that this undiscovered island actually was there and that we are being lied to. Now, I'm not about to jump quite to that conclusion, however, I will admit that it isn't every day that something becomes undiscovered, so it does make sense to wonder if there is something going on behind the scenes. However, I guess we will never know for sure. Next up at number 9, Blurred House. So I'll be honest, I'm not entirely sure if this qualifies as terrifying in the usual sense. However, it is certainly mysterious, and so I couldn't help myself from adding it to today's list. Located in Stockton-on-Tees, England, there is an inexplicable blurring of a random house that has perplexed neighbors, tourists, and even the residents themselves since 2009. Of course, when things like this happen, people like to make their own conclusions, and so rumors involving crime or aliens began spreading about the property. But in reality, the truth was much more unnerving, that no one could actually explain or figure out why it was banned for public viewing. In fact, according to the current resident, quote, "I've been in this house since 2000, but I have no idea why you can't see it." Which would mean at one point you could see it, and then 9 years later it was suddenly not suitable for the public to have access to? So, is there something spooky about this house that Google doesn't want us to know? Certainly seems that way. Coming in at number 8, Baker Lake. Up in a remote location of Nunavut, Canada, there is a seemingly innocuous place called Baker Lake that for some mysterious reason is not fully visible on Google Maps. In fact, if you do a quick search, there is actually a long black strip that covers a good chunk of the area, and as I'm sure you can imagine, it has garnered a terrifying conspiracy theory to explain why that is. The theory states that this black strip is actually covering extraterrestrial beacons that the government secretly brought down to Earth in 1972. The theory then goes on to explain that these top secret beacons exert powerful electromagnetic fields that disrupt Earth's natural energy grids, which in turn have altered the weather and have been used to focus the Earth's energy in undisclosed ways. Further, there are some out there who propose that because these alleged beacons are stolen space property, it has caused a massive war with aliens, hence the uprising in alleged UFO sightings. Now, in reality, we have no concrete evidence as to why this is blurred out, but whatever it is, it must be for a good reason. Next up at number 7, Jeanette Island. Located somewhere in the East Siberian Sea, this mysterious tiny island measures just 1.2 miles in length, and according to the powers that be, we are not supposed to know about it. First discovered in the late 19th century during the Jeanette expedition, this icy landmass and the ominous Google Maps blob that covers it have been the subject of numerous conspiracies, ranging from the usual alien stuff to it being a top secret government base for secret or evil deals amongst world leaders. Now, one thing we do know about this place is that there have been some issues over the years about who the island legally belonged to, with the US and Russia often butting heads over ownership. This has, of course, lended its hand to the evil political military base narrative, but for all we know, the truth could be even more terrifying. Coming in at number 6, former Sansi UFO houses. When construction on these peculiar houses began in 1978, they were marketed to be vacation resorts for US military officers coming from their East Asian postings. But as you might have noticed, they have an extremely futuristic look to them, hence why they got the nickname UFO houses. However, the bubbly pod-like architecture wasn't the only strange thing about these houses. A mere 2 years after construction began, the project was abandoned and never finished due to several car accidents and a number of construction workers who took their own lives on the job. This, of course, caused a huge loss on the investment, and they were forced to end the project. The plan from there was to tear down all the buildings despite a major public pushback, and eventually in 2010 all the UFO houses were demolished. But of course, this still didn't answer the mystery on everyone's mind. What was behind all this tragedy, and why were they so hell-bent on destroying the buildings? Well, there are a few theories. Some believe that the site was the formal burial ground for Dutch soldiers, and that the workers had been cursed during construction, while another theory claims that the tragedies were due to the bisecting of the Chinese dragon sculpture located near the resort gates. And of course, the shape of the buildings drew in conspiracy theorists who claim aliens were the reason for death and that they could have threatened the company to tear it down. So considering the buildings no longer exist, they could have very well been something they tried to keep from us. Coming in at number 5, Vaz Island. Way back in the 1920s, the Red Army began searching for a discreet place to build a military complex for inventing, producing, and testing biological weapons. They wanted something small and far away from the Soviet borders so as not to draw attention. And eventually by 1948, such a place was found. Almost immediately, a top-secret Soviet lab began testing agents such as smallpox, anthrax, and plague, among others. However, what they didn't see coming was that the island, once split between Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, would begin to grow in size once the Aral Sea began drying up in the 1960s. Then fast forward to 1971, and a weaponized smallpox was accidentally released from the lab, infecting 10 people, 3 of whom lost their life. And by the 1990s, the secrecy of the lab got compromised. All island inhabitants were evacuated, leaving the base completely abandoned by 1991. However, in their haste to leave, many of the containers were not properly destroyed or sealed. And so over time, these containers began to leak, contaminating the grounds for decades. Now, the good news is that by 2002, a lot of the sites were decontaminated, but many areas remain contaminated, and it's still one of the most feared and deadly places in the world. Coming in at number 4, underwater pyramids. Located in the Bahamas, this photo found in Google Maps has left many thinking that they discovered underwater pyramids. Now, I know, this is a full conspiracy theory, but I mean, what else do you expect to find when Google Maps has blurred out seemingly normal places across the globe? The main conspiracy surrounding these alleged underwater pyramids is that they are living proof of the long-lost city of Atlantis, or at the very least, proof of some ancient Aztec civilization. But of course, there are others out there who claim these underwater pyramids all have to do with aliens. The mysterious structure is estimated to measure between 3.5 to 11 miles across, based on the photos, although no one knows for sure as you can't get to the structure to see for yourself. If it is in fact a pyramid, and the size that many believe it to be, it would be the biggest pyramid ever built. But seeing as though no one can visit them, it might be a long while before we know if these pyramids prove any kind of extraterrestrial involvement on Earth. Coming in at number 3, Amchitka Island. Once home to the Aleut people for over 2,500 years, Amchitka Island has had no permanent population since 1832. In 1836, when the United States purchased Alaska, they gained control of the territory, and it's likely that this purchase had a lot to do with the declining population. However, that's not why it's blurred from the public view. Beginning in the 50s and up until the 70s, Amchitka was used by the US Atomic Energy Commission as a site for underground nuclear detonations, and during these 20 or so years, this island became known as the location of one of the largest underground tests ever conducted in US history. At the time, quite a bit of controversy followed what was going on at the island, mostly due to the fear that the tests could cause several environmental impacts and desolate the land, which frankly, they were not wrong about. While not entirely confirmed, it is the general belief that the controversial nuclear past of this island is the reason behind the ominous blur, as it's not somewhere Google is quick to advertise as a place to visit. Coming in at number 2, GROM headquarters. If you have ever Googled Warsaw, Poland, you may or may not have come across a strange group of buildings that look like mysterious blobs compared to the rest of the city around it. Well, as it turns out, this is no accident. Those buildings are GROM headquarters, which is essentially Poland's Special Forces building. Now, I'll be honest, there is not much you can find about these headquarters. All I can find out about this top secret group is that they rescued CIA agents from a mission gone wrong in Desert Storm back in 1991. And apparently, whatever else it is they are up to, they do not want you to know about. Which, I mean, I guess is kind of the point. So as much as I'm sure many of us would like to know what goes on in this super secret Polish spy headquarters, I'm afraid that information is highly classified and their exact location will continue to remain a secret from the public. And last up in our number 1 spot, to 207 Seymour Avenue. Once the home of the beyond evil Ariel Castro, there is no conspiracy that comes with why this house is blurred on Google Maps, only a truly terrifying reality. The horrors in this house began in the mid-90s when Ariel was married to a woman named Grimilda Figuera. Ariel was extremely abusive towards his wife, but despite cracking her skull and causing an eventual terminal brain tumor from his actions, the domestic violence arrest did not result in an indictment. By the late 90s, things began to get even scarier for Grimilda, and so she moved out, took their 4 offspring, and filed for full custody. But again, no charges were pressed against him. However, his abusive backstory with his wife is not the reason for the infamous reason you can't see this house. It's because shortly after their divorce, between the years of 2002 to 2004, Ariel kidnapped 3 young women and held them captive in this house until 2013. His victims, Amanda Berry, Michelle Knight, and Gina DeJesus, were starved, beaten, and endured unspeakable psychological and physical acts at this monster's hands, until finally in 2013 when Amanda noticed a door was left unlocked and saw a neighbor walking down the street. Amanda screamed for help, and the neighbor ran to the house, broke through the door, allowing Amanda to make a valiant escape with her 6-year-old daughter. She promptly called 911, and authorities arrived in minutes, saving the other 2 victims. The case made international headlines, and Ariel Castro was rightfully sentenced to life in prison plus 1,000 years without possibility of parole. As part of the plea bargain, the house was actually demolished, but still the story was so evil that it remains blurred on Google Maps forever.
Alright, coming at number 10 now, we have the Mazda Raceway. This is a paved road racing track in California that was built in 1957, and for some strange reason, it's totally blurred out. I tried searching around for the reason behind this, and I couldn't seem to find anything. It doesn't appear to be anything to do with the military, it's just a normal racing track. Or is it? Why would Mazda want us to not see the track from above? And why would Google agree to this? Alright, getting even more serious now at number 9, we have HAARP. Some of you guys might remember HAARP from our other videos. It's a US Air Force research facility with many theories around the work done there, including experiments to control the weather. Regardless of if that's true or not, their base in Alaska is blocked out on Google Maps. You can only really see some weird copy and pasted brownish blocks. Now sure, there might be something very normal going on there, but this is also fuel for the conspiracy theorists. Next up at number 8 now, we have Noordwijk aan Zee. This is a small part of a town in the Netherlands that has the strangest blur on it that I've seen so far. If you could see underneath that blur, you would see the ESTEC, or the European Space Research and Technology Centre. Now they obviously do important space work there, but why would we not be allowed to see it from above? One theory is that it's hiding rocket technology from rival space agencies. Next up at number 7 now, we have the Michael Aff building. This building is in Utah, and although it might sound like it belongs to some nice guy called Michael, it's a bit more serious than that. It's actually an area used by the US Army to test bio and chemical weapons. If you try and view it on Google Maps, you just get this weird whited out area with swirls and square patterns. Whatever crazy chemical technology is being concocted there, we are not supposed to see the details. Alright, moving on to number 6 now, we have the KFC kernel. We've done a few serious ones so far, so here's a little bit of a weird but very real one to lighten the mood. The KFC kernel's face is automatically blurred on every Google Maps image. Now I'm sure you guys might be able to find one, but it must have been manually unblurred. You see, this is because Google's face recognition technology automatically blurs out any face it finds for privacy reasons. It got a little bit carried away and blurred the kernel's face on the front of every single KFC. That's about 19,000 of them. The Google employee who has to manually fix all of that will be busy for quite a while. Alright, next up at number 5 now, we have Princeton Road. In the English town of Stockton-on-Tees, there is a street called Princeton Road with only a few houses, and one of them is mysteriously blurred out. Some celebrities do this for privacy reasons, but the person who lives there said that they have never requested that Google blur out their home. Ironically, whoever was trying to hide something about this house has earned it a lot more attention because of the mysterious blur. Alright, moving on to number 4 now, we have Grunard Island. This small island off the coast of the UK is less than a mile wide and was where British scientists tested deadly anthrax bombs during the Second World War. They tested them on 60 sheep, all of whom died within 60 days. Ever since then, the area has been a no-go zone. You're not allowed to go there, and the blurred Google Google Maps image reflects its mysterious nature. Alright, at the number 3 spot now, we have the Garden of Gethsemane. Any Christians watching this video might recognize this as the place where Jesus was said to have spent his last ever night before his crucifixion. It's also said to be the place where his mother Mary was buried before ascending to heaven. It's also totally blurred out on Google Maps. Why would this be? It's a very famous pilgrimage site. You can go there yourself. It's not hidden away at all. So why is it hidden from above? Very strange indeed. Alright, next up at number 2 now, we have the Secret City. This one is actually so secret that I couldn't even find where it was on Google Maps. I had to rely on other people's screenshots of it. The Secret City is a blurred out area of Google Maps deep in Russia's Siberian tundra. Now, it was thought that nobody lived in that area, but information has leaked out over the years that in 1986 the Soviet Union sealed off dozens of secret cities with over 1 million people living in them. They attached strange code names to them like Tomsk 7 and Arzamas 16, and some people believe this ominous brown blob on Google Maps is the hidden view of one of these cities. And finally now at number 1 we have Mururoa Atoll. The world knows about this small Pacific island because for 33 years, from 1966 to 1996, France tested nuclear bombs there. They dropped 193 of them on this small island to see the effects and fine-tune their design. The result was incredible environmental damage, leaving the place radioactively contaminated. Perhaps that's why France doesn't want you to see it, as the place is just one thin blur on Google Maps.
Let's get right into this list. Starting off in our number 10 spot, we have Mount Athos. This mountain and peninsula isn't only off limits to human females, but just every kind of female animal out there. This rule has been in place for more than 1,000 years, so I don't really see this one changing at any time soon. This mountain is home to a monastery which houses about 2,000 monks, which is where this female band comes from. There have been women in the past who have snuck into the area in order to protest, but it has always been met with an outcry from the monks who say that the presence of the females not only alter the social dynamics, but slow their path to spiritual enlightenment. I'm not exactly sure how to feel about this one, as I can definitely respect people's religious practices and wouldn't want anyone coming into my path of enlightenment, but this ban, of course, also includes me. In our number 9 spot today, we have Haji Ali Dargah. This landmark is a mosque and dargah and was constructed in 1431. For a while, there was a ban placed on women being there before an arrangement was made which allowed women into the landmark, but the inner sanctum sanctorium was still off limits, unless of course you're a man. This restriction was said to be due to Islam and the fact that it is considered a sin for a woman to be in close proximity of the grave of a Muslim saint. Or at least that's what the internet told me was the reason. This is another place that has seen many protests about the ban, and there have even been petitions circling to have the rule changed, but this is one of the times it actually worked. In 2016, the Supreme Court ruled that they would allow women the equal right to pray, and they began being allowed in all of the same areas, which of course was a huge win. In our number 8 spot today, we have Mount Omine. This mountain is the home of the Yamabushi monks and is famous for its 3 tests of courage. The ban on women was placed in order to help remove thoughts of temptation from the monks as they practiced their strict lifestyle. This one is slightly different from some of the others on this list, however, as there have been many females who have still gone here with no trespassing charges ever placed or really much outcry at all. They refer to the ban as a more voluntary situation. Both the temple and the local community call it a request rather than a rule or a law, and the request is in order to respect their tradition, as well as, of course, like I mentioned before, to help them. As much as I really don't like being banned from a place, I feel like this is a more reasonable way to do it if we have to, but maybe that's because I don't live in Japan where this rule directly affects me, so let me know in the comments down below what you think about these kinds of bans. In our number 7 spot today, we have Okinoshima, this Japanese sacred island which is the home to the 17th century shrine of Okitsu. This island only has a population of 1, which is the single employee of the shrine. He is one of 24 priests who spend 10-day intervals on the island to pray and protect it from intruders. The rules state that only men can travel to and worship at the island's shrines. The men will strip naked and perform a cleansing ritual before they enter the island, and they honor the sailors who passed away in a naval battle near the island during the 1904-1905 Russo-Japanese War. It isn't exactly clear why women are banned from this island, but it has something to do with Shinto traditions. In our number 6 spot today, we have the Galaxy Water Park. This water park located in Germany has a ban on women that I simply cannot wrap my head around. While women aren't banned from the water park entirely, they are banned from the park's highest speed water slide. This ban came after the owner of the park determined that the water slide slide was causing what is being called intimate injuries, and apparently this only happens to women. Apparently the slide can hit speeds up to 45 miles per hour, and apparently 6 women complained of suffering injuries. I really am not sure the details surrounding whatever is going on here, but to be fair, I'm not exactly sure if I would like to know either. But according to a gynecological association, other than pregnancy, there shouldn't be any sort of medical condition that would prevent a woman from going on a water slide. When I started making this list, this really wasn't the type of thing that I imagined including, because I never thought that this strange band would even exist, but here we are. In our number 5 spot today, we have Bohemian Grove. Bohemian Grove is a privately owned campsite in Monterey in California and is the home to the wealthy and exclusive Bohemian Club. It comes as no surprise that this club is only for men, despite the few dire attempts at including women. Every year there is a 2-week-long retreat that the club hosts on the private grounds, and while there have been 4 women who have been invited to the club as honorary members, the women are never invited to the Grove. Because of this weird ban and just the entire super strange nature of the whole ordeal, both the club and the Grove are part of many conspiracy theories. There has been no shortage of outsiders trying to sneak into the Grove to see what the heck is going on there and to get to the bottom of what this secretive club is really hiding. To be honest, there's definitely something sketchy going on with this whole thing, because it really just does give off the weirdest vibes. In our number 4 spot today, we have Lord Kartikeya Temple. This temple is located in India and was built in honor of course, Lord Kartikeya, who is the Hindu god of war. More specifically, the temple is paying homage to the celibate form of the Hindu deity. I guess with this knowledge, and also based on what video this is, you can guess what's going to come next. Women aren't allowed here. As this is a temple, it is of course for religious reasons, which are said to be why the rule came into place, but there's also a myth associated with this one. According to the myth, any woman who enters the temple will incur the deity's wrath and will be cursed. Considering the fact that he is the god of war, I feel like this might not be the one I want to risk. You know, just in case. I definitely am not trying to get cursed. In our number 3 spot today, we have Lord Ayyappa's temple. This is a temple that doesn't ban all women, but just those from 10 years old to 50 years old. This is another ban that has its roots in myths that surround the deity and the fact that he is celibate. Apparently, the deity thought of women as a distraction from the vow of celibacy, but despite this, this is one rule that might just be on its way out. Apparently, the government has recently become more vocal about favoring the decision to reverse this age restriction and instead allow women of all ages to enter the temple. The conversation has already reached the Supreme Court, which is huge. I totally understand that these decisions, especially these ones that have their roots in faith and religion, should not be taken lightly at all, and of course take time to discuss, but I think it can be appreciated that the conversation is happening at all. In our number 2 spot today, we have Saudi Arabia. Okay, so of course the whole country isn't just men, so you might be wondering why this is on the list, but that is to do with the rules around travel. As a solo woman traveler, it would be extremely difficult to gain entry into the country. Women can be given visas for travel, but all female visitors must be accompanied by a male guardian. I don't make the rules. That's just how it is. Once in the country, women also aren't permitted to drive, and if you're heading there to visit someone's grave, better luck somewhere else, because women are also banned from Saudi Arabian cemeteries. So if you're planning a trip anytime soon, there's just a few things to consider beforehand, and many more if you're female. In our number 1 spot today, we have the Jain Temple. To end off our list today, we have another temple that doesn't have an outright ban on women, but just a few rules that of course are directed to affect women. Firstly, there's a very strict dress code, which seems fine and well, especially for a religious place, reasonable. But then we get into the more surprising rule, and that is that women who are menstruating are banned from entering the premises. I have a lot of questions about why, although I know it is because that is something that is seen as unclean, which I will not comment on, but my main question is to how exactly that is an enforceable rule. Either way, it is the rule, and unfortunately, I don't make the rules. Despite this being one of the more seemingly absurd rules on this list, it is good to know in advance if you ever had a plan to visit the temple.
In our number 10 spot, we have Track 61. This is a train that was actually hidden from the public for a very long time, as it was a private train for President Franklin D. Roosevelt. Apparently, Franklin didn't want the public to know when he was going to New York, and so he had a private train made for him. naturally. And of course his train had to have a private secret station, and that was called Track 61. He couldn't have just stopped in Grand Central Station, he would have been bombarded and spotted in no time. Anyways, apparently the station has long been abandoned, but at one point was a place for wealthy travelers and politicians. In our number 9 spot we have Oak Ridge. Okay, so this is a place that was once hidden that the US government didn't want anyone to know about, so whatever, it works. Oak Ridge was a place in 1943 that thousands of workers, soldiers, and scientists were kept in order to work hard on the Manhattan Project, a top secret project for the government that not even the workers knew what the project was about. It was so secret that they weren't allowed to discuss what they were working on with each other, and of course they weren't allowed to share anything with anyone outside of work. They were made to take lie detector tests regularly. About 60,000 acres of land around Oak Ridge was purchased by the government to ensure that they had the required space to reach their goals. Pretty wild. Apparently this was one of the best kept secrets in World War II. In our number 8 spot we have 404. 404 is an abandoned nuclear testing city. Well, largely abandoned. There's still about 1,000 people living there. But yes, you heard that right. There is a city in China that was created for the purpose of working on nuclear devices. The government carefully selected people from all walks of life that could contribute to their goal of creating this nuclear device and moved them there. It took 4 years to load up the city and 6 years to create the nuclear device successfully, but they did achieve their goal. Around 2006 was when the city slowly became evacuated as there were, quote, large-scale cave-ins. I guess the houses weren't being kept in good shape, but in any case, fascinating to hear that they did this. In our number 7 spot, we have the North Sentinel Island. Okay, this place is such a trip. When I first heard of this island existing, I definitely had a moment where I said out loud, yo, how many things do I not know that I don't know? Also, isn't it just like a trip that there will be things in life that you don't know that you don't know? That one just makes me want to say yo every time. My mom loves me. Okay, so back to the reason why I'm yoing so much. There is an island that is home to a tribe called Sentinels, and this island is forbidden to everyone. If you go anywhere near the island, the people that are standing guard will either hunt you down with an arrow or kill you if you end up on shore. The people have lived there for over 50,000 years under the protection of the Indian government. The somewhat blurry pictures that have been taken of these people on the beach shows you that they are living in another period than us. It's crazy to think that in some part of this world, technology does not exist. I wonder if we'll ever see anyone escape the island someday. That story would honestly be epic to hear. In our number 6 spot today, we have the Lascaux Cave. The Lascaux Cave is allegedly a cave filled with absolute treasures. It's a cave that can only be assessed by archaeologists and is completely closed down to the public, but probably for a good reason. The cave contains paintings that are supposedly 17,300 years old. Apparently the Paleolithic paintings are quite vivid and depict stags, cattle, and many animals. I'm sure there's so many places like this in the world that we've never been told about because we're just regular people. I'm just your regular basic gal who loves her Starbucks and reads the Shopaholic series at night. No need to tell me about the secret caves. I may try to go there and do an Instagram shoot. I wouldn't actually do this. This is just my assumption as to what they would think I would do. Although, I feel like I would look cute beside a prehistoric stag painting. In our number 5 spot, we have the Ise Grand Shrine. In Japan, there is a shrine called the Ise Grand Shrine that is completely blocked off to anyone except royalty. Apparently, it's one of the most expensive shrines in the world, and because it follows Shinto traditions, which go back to the 8th century, the temple is rebuilt every 20 years. Feels a little unresourceful to me, but YOLO. The public is absolutely forbidden to enter its walls. Okay, first off, I bet we're not allowed in because these people are either 1, doing some satanic sacrifice type ritual that people today would not be okay with and protest with metaphorical pitchforks, or 2, Or maybe they are doing something just, religious. Or 3, they are guarding an entrance to another world like Narnia or some kind of magical dimension, or heck, maybe they're just performing some magical things in there. Maybe that's a sanctuary for the lizard people. I could brainstorm forever. In our number 4 spot, we have the secret elite male-only club. There is a male-only club in California called Bohemian Grove that is extremely private, and one can only enter if one has been invited. It is extremely secret, and some people have tried to expose what happens there over the years, but still, much of what happens is a great mystery. All that is known is that there is a giant owl statue, and people have claimed to have seen some kind of ritual there from across the lake. There are allegedly top government officials, politicians, entertainers, and people that are quite established in their field that go there. Some speculate that it's a satanic cult, but there is no proof. I would think that they would want us to believe that perhaps it's just some old men hanging out and bragging about their power, but something tells me that it's probably more than that. But the conspiracy theorists of the world go nuts contemplating what happens in this place. In our number 3 spot, we have Niihau Island. This is another island that is completely forbidden to the public. The island has about 160 inhabitants, and unless you have a relative on the island or you are part of the US Navy, you are not allowed. This island is located near Oahu, a famous Hawaiian island, and the reason it is so heavily protected, well, it is apparently to preserve the environment and wildlife. I wonder if that's the real reason, or perhaps there's something else that they're protecting the world from seeing, like real live fairies. Or giants. Or maybe that's where the original people from Atlantis actually went instead of Ireland, like some speculate. In our number 2 spot, we have Area 51. A part of me didn't want to include this one because everyone and their uncle knows about it due to the popular Hollywood films around it, but anyways, it's completely hidden off of Google Maps, but quite frankly, a lot of places are. That could be a whole other video. But also, clearly, the government does not want us to know what's happening inside of it. Area 51 is located in the state of Nevada and is, interestingly enough, inside a mysterious phenomena that is called the Nevada Triangle. A lot of mysterious planes and people disappear in the Nevada Triangle, and I'm convinced it's the fault of the aliens in Area 51. Either that or there's a portal to another world. One of the two. Workers that have worked there have claimed to have worked on elements that don't seem to be from this world and pieces of metal that appear to be out of this world. But in any case, no one can deny that something strange is going on in there that would probably change the world as we know it, which is probably why we don't know about it, and they probably ain't filling us in anytime soon. Let's be real. In our number 1 spot, we have the underground speed testing facilities. There are a lot of hidden underground testing facilities in the world dedicated towards testing speed. Allegedly, at Russia's Ministry of Defense headquarters, they have managed to create a missile that travels at a speed of Mach 7, and some also say Mach 9. Just to give you some perspective as to how fast that is, a plane travels at the speed of less than Mach 1, about Mach 0.75 to 0.85. So yeah, that's fast. Apparently, there are plenty of US underground testing facilities that are rumored to have been testing at crazy speeds like this, but of course, this is hidden and not common knowledge to the everyday folk. Also, apparently a Mach 5 plane is in the works, and that is supposed to get you from New York to LA in 30 minutes. Imagine what a Mach 7 plane could do. Hopefully those planes will be effective in our lifetime, but who knows, maybe they already are for the elite.
Starting off this list in our number 10 spot, we have Pine Gap. Pine Gap is a highly secretive Australian intelligence facility located in the remote desert of the Northern Territory, approximately 20 kilometers southwest of Alice Springs. The facility is jointly operated by the Australian government and the United States government's Central Intelligence Agency, better known as the CIA. It is believed that Pine Gap is primarily used for the interception of signals intelligence, including satellite imagery and communications from various locations around the world, but at this point in time, no one is really sure. That is because Pine Gap has long been shrouded in secrecy, and its operations have been the subject of much speculation and controversy. There have been allegations of illegal activities taking place at the facility, including surveillance of Australian citizens and involvement in controversial US military operations. Despite this, the Australian and US governments have consistently denied any wrongdoings, and little is known about the true nature of the activities taking place at Pine Gap. The facility remains one of the most mysterious and secretive military installations in the world.
Number 9. Door to Hell. Yep, you heard that right. Door to Hell. Many people believe this giant crater in Turkmenistan is a gateway to hell, and I can't say that I really disagree. It's essentially a 230-foot wide pit with glowing red flames and is surrounded by miles of sand. It's said that this place is a natural gas field that collapsed in 1971. To contain the spread of the methane gas, geologists set it on fire, and it has been continuously burning ever since. Now, many cultures and philosophies around the world believe in the existence of the underworld, and while there are many places believed to be gateways to the underworld, the door to hell might just be the closest resemblance to this place. To this day, the crater is still burning, and no one really knows why.
In our number 8 spot today, we have the Yamantau Mountain Complex. The Yamantau Mountain Complex is a highly secretive and heavily guarded underground facility located in the Ural Mountains of Russia. Its purpose and functions are shrouded in mystery, and the Russian government has actually never officially acknowledged its existence. It is believed to have been built during the Cold War as a nuclear weapons storage facility and command center. There is an above-ground town called Mezgor, and that town is super secret and off limits, so much so that people aren't even allowed within the vicinity. And this is all thought to be because this town might be holding the complex underneath it. The underground complex is said to cover an area of over 400 square miles with many tunnels and underground facilities. Its exact purpose and current use remain unknown, with various theories and speculations ranging from a bunker for the Russian government and military leaders to a storage facility for advanced weapons and technology. Some have even speculated that it could be used as a launch site for missiles or a secret laboratory for biological weapons research. Despite many attempts by outsiders to uncover the truth about the Yamantau Mountain Complex, the Russian government has remained tight-lipped and maintains strict security measures around the area.
Number 7. Queen Mary. Queen Mary is a retired British ocean liner that sailed from 1936 to 1967. The city of Long Beach bought the ship to serve as a tourist attraction featuring restaurants, a museum, and a hotel, but claims were made that the ship was haunted. Apparently, there are resident spirits, including Jackie, the little girl who haunts the first-class pool, John Petter, who was crushed by a watertight door, and the cook, who was baked alive by his own kitchen staff during World War II. But arguably, the most notorious location on the ship for paranormal activity is stateroom B340. Reports claim someone was knocking on the door in the middle of the night, bathroom lights turned on by themselves, the sink faucet turning off and on its own, and unexplained bathroom doors shutting. Some guests have even reported the covers of their bed being pulled off while asleep and waking to see a dark figure standing at the foot of the bed. Now, why is it so haunted and seems to be cursed? No one really knows. But if you dare to spend a night there, I'm sure you'll run into something truly terrifying.
In our number 6 spot today, we have Porton Down. Porton Down is located in Wiltshire, England. Hopefully I said that right. I never know. And it is a government research facility. This place was first created in 1916 during World War I, and it was initially built as a testing ground for chemical weapons. Since then, however, it has become one of the UK's leading research centres for defence and security. Here's where things get pretty mysterious though. The site is surrounded by high security fencing and is very strictly patrolled by armed guards. Of course, what they are doing inside of this facility is highly classified. Porton Down has been the site of several controversial incidents over the years, including the accidental exposure of military personnel to chemical agents during experiments. The facility has also been accused of testing chemical weapons on unsuspecting civilians in nearby areas. In addition, there have been allegations of unethical animal testing practices and human experiments conducted at the facility. Today, the facility continues to conduct research in areas such as disease control, but many of their operations remain a total mystery.
Number 5. Okigahara Forest. The Okigahara Forest, aka the forest in Japan where people take their lives, is just as terrifying as it is tragic. And from the entrance of the forest reads, "Think carefully about your children, your family, and your life is a precious gift from your parents." Every year, hundreds of people go here to end their lives, and the number of deaths here can be estimated from the data collected by the local police through the annual campaign. But how many corpses are recovered annually from here is never disclosed. Why people come and end their lives here is still a mystery, but according to an ancient legend, once in Japan when people were unable to maintain themselves, they were left in this forest where they all died of starvation. It's believed that the ghosts of these dead people hunt for a new soul daily. It's also said that the mournful spirits of those who took their own lives still linger in the woods. Folklore claims they are vengeful, dedicated to tormenting visitors and luring those who are sad and lost off the paths. Japanese astrologers also believe that the reason for the deaths in the forest is due to the power of the strange forces living on the trees, which carry out such incidents. So why so many people feel the need to end their lives there will never be known, and it's such a tragedy.
In our number 4 spot today, we have the Raven Rock Mountain Complex. The Raven Rock Mountain Complex is a highly secure military installation located in Pennsylvania in the United States, and it is often referred to as the quote, underground Pentagon. The facility, also known as Site R, was built during the Cold War as a backup command center for the Pentagon and was designed to ensure continuity of government operations in case of a nuclear attack. The complex is located inside of a mountain and has a vast network of underground tunnels, facilities, and backup power systems to keep the facility running in case of a disaster, and it is even equipped with communication systems, medical facilities, and living quarters to support personnel in the event of an emergency. Basically, it is everything someone would need in the event of the absolute worst case scenario. Although the site was built for the tense times of the Cold War, it is still in use today, but the functions and capabilities of the site remain classified. We know it serves as a critical facility for the US government and military, and that it has been activated as recently as during the 2020 crisis.
Number 3. The Alaska Triangle. You've probably heard of the Bermuda Triangle, but have you ever heard of the Alaska Triangle? Probably not, so let me tell you about it. It's a remote area infamous for alien abductions, Bigfoot sightings, paranormal phenomena, and vanishing airplanes. So yeah, the Alaska Triangle has everything the Bermuda Triangle has, but with more mountains, and it's cold. Like much of Alaska, the Triangle contains some of the most rugged, unforgiving wilderness in North America. It's an impossibly vast expanse of dense forests, craggy mountain peaks, alpine lakes, and large swaths of plain old wilderness. With all of this, it's no shock that people go missing. What is surprising, however, is the sheer number of people who go missing. Add to that the fact that many disappear without a shred of evidence, and bodies, dead or alive, are rarely found. More than 16,000 people, including airplane passengers, hikers, locals, and tourists, have disappeared within the Alaska Triangle since 1988. The rate per 1,000 people is more than twice the national missing persons average, and the rate of people who are never found is even higher. The numbers don't lie, and they imply that something else is going on here other than people merely getting lost in the mountains. So what's really going on here? Seems like no one knows, and I do not want to be the one to find out.
In our number 2 spot today, we have the Dugway Proving Ground. The Dugway Proving Ground is a highly secretive and heavily guarded military installation located in the Great Salt Lake Desert of Utah in the United States. It was established in 1942 and it covers an area of 798,214 acres, making it one of the largest military testing facilities in the entire world. The facility is primarily used for the testing and development of chemical and biological weapons, as well as for research and the development of various defense technologies. The Dugway Proving Ground is surrounded by a fence and access is heavily restricted. The facility has been the subject of much speculation and conspiracy theories, with rumors of secret experiments and cover-ups. In 1968, an accidental release of the VX nerve agent killed thousands of sheep in the nearby Skull Valley, leading to widespread concern and criticism of the facility. Despite its controversial past, however, the Dugway Proving Ground remains an essential part of the United States national security infrastructure, and its operations continue to be shrouded shrouded in secrecy.
And coming in at number 1 is North Korea. Yes, North Korea as a whole is just plain terrifying as well as mysterious. Little is known about the country due to their dictator Kim Jong-un's rule. They have many secret missile bases and they have some nuclear facilities that are a little sus to say the least. Kim is also very strict with his people and they can't access the internet, and if they do, it can only be government approved sites. The same goes with film and TV. The citizens are also treated horribly there. There's hardly any food and everyone is weak and hungry, and it's even been said that the streets are lined with dead bodies. They also have very strict laws that result in people being executed or sent to prison camps, which are one of the worst forms of torment. Based on the guilty by association principle, they are often imprisoned together with the whole family, including children and the elderly, and including any children born in the camp. A former guard likened the prisoners to walking skeletons, dwarfs, and cripples in rags. He estimated that about 30% of prisoners had deformities such as torn off ears, smashed eyes, crooked noses, and faces covered with cuts and scars resulting from beatings and other mistreatments, and that these people were still forced to work. They had to do hard physical labor in agriculture, mining, and inside factories from 5 a.m. to 8 p.m., followed by ideological re-education and self-criticism sessions. The prisoners are forced to sleep in a room with 80 to 90 people in 30 square meter flea-infested rooms, are only occasionally allowed to use the toilet, one for about 300 people, and may only take a shower after several months. No one should have to live like that, and it's horrible. And that's the stuff we do know. Kim is so secretive, I fear that we don't know the true horrors of what goes on in North Korea.